What is up, you guys? Teller checking in for the recap of UFC 283. You guys know what that means. We're doing some future matchmaking for all the winners that fought on this card. We're going to recap the bets that we targeted throughout this card. And we're basically going to dissect every fight that took place throughout it. As you guys see, I'm recording this with the green screen behind me. And I want to make this very clear. This is the first time I'm ever using the green screen, and it is not up to the standard that I want it to be. Of course, it's the first time I'm doing this, so understand that I know I look a little cartoonish, and I know I look a little bit blurry, and it's going to look much better in the near future here. In the next couple weeks, I'm going to fine tune all this. In fact, my videos are going to have a whole new format, and you guys are really going to like what's coming your guys' way. Some big things coming up with the channel here. All right, so if you guys could, please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you guys are not already. Catch me on social media, on Instagram and Twitter. Those are scrolling below. And I won't hold you guys up. We're going to dive right into the first fight that took place on UFC 283, and that was Daniel Marcos versus Saimon Oliveira. Now, if you guys remember, Saimon Oliveira was the decent favorite going into this fight. About a week in advance, he was around a -175. That line came down quite a bit leading up to the fight. Oliveira settled in as a very slight favorite, right around a -130. A lot of action coming in on Daniel Marcos, and it was definitely warranted because he went out there and he showed to be the better fighter. He showed to be the larger fighter. He had a larger frame. And, the only question marks I had with Marcos was that I wasn't really crazy about the level of competition that he had fought leading up to this fight. He's a very accurate striker, but I wanted to see him put a little bit more zest and pop on his punches. And this was a performance that really impressed me here. Nothing but rave reviews coming from him all throughout the fight week. Charles Rosa really backing him as a future contender in the division. Saimon Oliveira, a dangerous fighter, a well-rounded fighter, but just a little bit in over his head, and I'm not really sure if he's a UFC caliber fighter at this point in time. He's gonna have to show me something. Marcos, on the other hand, he is now 14-0. He's undefeated. He puts a little feather in his cap, fighting a fighter that I give a little bit more credibility to, that based compared to some of the fighters that he had fought in the past. And I think that Marcos's potential is somewhat promising. I want to see more from him, but that's a great start as far as a UFC debut fight. He's a very accurate striker, seems to be able to take a shot very well. He's one of those fighters that just walks his opponents down, and he's a problem. So right now, Daniel Marcos is ranked the 74th ranked fighter on Tapology's MMA bantamweight rankings, which is understandable. The bantamweight division is stacked as ever. This is the way that I'm going to want to play his career personally. You guys let me know if you agree or disagree. I don't feel that there's any need to rush him towards very high level competition in this division. Let him get another victory under his belt. Let him get another finish, and then we can start talking about that. For now, I wouldn't mind to see him fight the Mongolian murderer and Qulang Ihor, who is on a 2-fight winning streak. Just took out Jay Perrin and Cameron Else. To me, that's a fight that makes some sense there. Again, I don't need to see a really big name for him in his second fight. Personally, that's just how I feel about it. Let him get his feet wet. I believe he's 29 years old. He's not that young, but cruise him into the top of this division if he's really going to make some noise there. Josiane Nunez gets the unanimous decision over Zarah Farin. This was an awesome fight. I think even though Zarah Farin loses this fight and she now goes to 6-5, I think her stock goes up. She came out guns a-blazing, really just taking control of this fight in the first round, but she did start to slow down, and Josiane Nunez potentially took that first round. I think that's debatable. I think that first round could have went to either fighter. In fact, all three judges did score that first round for Zarah, which I think is reasonable, but there's a case. Nunez was stepping on the gas, and she was really landing some big shots at the end of that first round. You got to love the heart that Nunez showed here, just pushing deep in the second and third rounds, just closing the distance. She was at a massive disadvantage as far as the size went. She had to close that distance, use proper footwork. She ate some big shots, so she shows that she has a solid chin as well. And Josiane Nunez is a very, very exciting addition to the I don't want to say the UFC's women's featherweight division, because I want to see her come down to the bantamweight division. She has no business fighting in these featherweight fights. You saw how undersized she was, and that's why we're actually going to jump up. We're going to jump over to the women's bantamweight rankings, which don't mind me just sliding over to Jessica Andrade, because you guys know Jessica Andrade used to fight in the bantamweight division back in the day. So we should be able to find some fighters here that are in that division, as we do, Raquel Pennington. So let's go slide over to the bantamweight rankings, because I want to see Josiane Nunez fighting some of the best bantamweight fighters in the world. I think she's a great addition to the most, I don't know if I should say that, but the most prolific weight class in women's MMA. I think you can argue that. Maybe not the most deep, but it's truly one of the staples of women's MMA, the bantamweight division. So give me Josiane Nunez and Pannie Kianzad. How about that? Pannie's coming off a victory against Lena Landsberg. Pannie's a talented striker. I think that'd be a fun striking matchup. And I mean, obviously, we don't need to see Josiane just get thrown to the top of the division right away. She has to prove herself in this division, but I want to see her fight a respectable opponent here. That's why I'm saying Pannie Kianzad is the fight to make, personally. Let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know if you want her to go down to that bantamweight division. We know there's some talks about that, and I think that's a fight that makes sense. Ketlin Vieira is coming off a loss against Raquel Pennington. That was a very close fight. Maybe they do that as well. Wouldn't have a problem with that at all. You saw Ketlin Vieira in the crowd for UFC 283, and she looked massive out there, all tatted up, sitting front row. All right, so now we will slide to the next fight, where Nicholas Dalby took a split decision over Warlley Alves. Should have been a unanimous decision, personally. That's what I thought. Nicholas Dalby, you guys know we picked him to win this fight. He was a slight underdog, no official action on him. I'm a little bit annoyed that I didn't pull the trigger on him. I almost did, but I kind of stayed away. The age of Dalby is what kept me away from pulling the trigger there, but Warlley Alves is a fighter that is just very flaky. Everybody wants to point to that submission victory that he had over Colby Covington. Get over that. That mistake that Colby made is a frequent mistake that MMA fighters with the wrestling background make early in their career. When I used to do jiu-jitsu tournaments and whatnot, I've gone against some decently talented wrestlers, college wrestlers, collegiate wrestlers. I never wrestled a day in my life, and I used to always snag that guillotine. Obviously, if you make it to the UFC, you should have refined that, but get over the fact that he submitted Colby, all right? Colby made a mistake, and it is what it is. I know Warlley's had a couple big knockouts here and there, but he's a fighter that just kind of flakes out. Listen, nothing but respect towards him. I mean, he's a fighter that goes out there to put on a show, throws bombs and whatnot. But if you play your cards right and you pace yourself, I think that Warlley is a very, very beatable fighter, in my opinion. And, it is what it is. Somebody over here says robbery. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what's going on with that. But, I think everybody would agree that Nicholas Dalby did, in fact, take that fight. I thought it should have been a unanimous decision, like I said. So Nicholas Dalby, he's 38 years old. He's up there in age, but still in phenomenal shape. He is ranked 30th on Tapology's welterweight rankings. Give the guy one more shot at pushing towards the top before he hits 40 and he has that cane in his hand. Who do we want to see Nicholas Dalby match up with next? Nico Price is a fight that definitely stands out, but Nico's coming off a loss. We're most likely not going to see a fight like that. Jeremiah Wells is a guy that's been going out there just cracking people up, and Jeremiah Wells is a fight that makes sense to me. I've become a big fan of Jeremiah Wells in a short period of time since he's bursted on the scene in the UFC. Jeremiah Wells versus Nicholas Dalby, that's a fun fight. Pencil that in. All right. So we will look up the card. In the lightweight division, we had Ishmael Bonfim, one of the Bonfim brothers, the older Bonfim brother, defeats Terrence McKinney. You guys know I picked him to win this fight. He was a slight underdog here. No official action on him. I did have official action on his brother. We'll get to that fight in a second. Everybody was on Terrence McKinney that I saw. Tried to warn you guys that we talked about the fact that McKinney has been finished at times and does make some mistakes out there. And a guy like Ishmael can definitely jump on an opportunity like that. I mean, was I expecting that? Honestly, no. I wasn't expecting a flying knee, but I was expecting him potentially to crack him on the feet and knock him out. We talked about that. McKinney's a stud, and he'll bounce back. But the Bonfim brothers are legit, right? I was talking about this on my Instagram all fight week. These brothers are legit. Everything I've heard about these brothers and everything we've seen, these kids have been pros since they were really little kids and young teenagers. They've been pros, and they've been groomed through the game the right way. They are the future of Brazilian MMA. So Ishmael Bonfim gets the victory there. That was an amazing finish. And I think there's so many fun things you could do with him in the lightweight division. Again, he only just had his first fight in the UFC. So he's currently ranked 34th in a very stacked division in the UFC. You know, and again, listen, sometimes it just plays out like this. I'm not just throwing out, easy matchups because they're right next to each other. But Matt Frivola, who's coming off a big victory over Otman Azatar, had the victory over Gennaro Valdez, had the loss to Terrence McKinney, and then a toughly fought match against Arman Sarukian before that. And let's scroll back to his last victory against Luis Pena. Matt Frivola has been hot as of recently, specifically his last 2 fights. Matt Frivola brings the fight. Can you imagine a Matt Frivola and Ishmael Bonfim fight? That fight's going to be fireworks. They remind me very much of each other. Both have similar statures. That's the fight to make, in my opinion. There's no question about it. It's going to be fireworks. People are going to get up for that fight, make that fight happen. All right. We had Cody Stamann take out Luan Lacerda. Luan Lacerda was a major underdog here. You guys know I picked him to win this fight. I thought this fight played out relatively close. It was 2-1 to Stamann, but I thought this fight played out very close. And if Lacerda would have had a little bit more gas in his tank and would have pushed the pace a little bit more at the striking, he could have made it play out a little bit closer. But at the end of the day, major props to Cody because Cody looked lightning fast with his boxing. Now, he was taken down time or two, which did surprise me. I know Lacerda has some good BJJ, but got in on those hips and slammed Cody down. I was a little surprised to see that. Cody's a stud. They've been kind of slow playing Cody at times. I think that Cody needs to get some big fights once again, like he has in the past. Currently ranked 19th on Tapology's worldwide rankings. You're going to see a lot of fighters above him that are already penciled in with opponents. Umar Nurmagomedov, we already kind of talked about a fight with him and Ricky Simone. That seems that's not going to be happening because Ricky is now going to be fighting Yadong Song. So you know what? Give me Umar Nurmagomedov and Cody Stamann. We talked about the fact that Umar doesn't want to, from what he said, doesn't really want that fast pace to the top of the division. He's talking about fighting for the belt next year. And if he wants to stay active, as you see, there's only so many guys at the top here. And a lot of these fighters already have matches. So if that's the case, if Umar's not screaming for a run towards the title now, which I think he should be because he's ready. But if that's how he's talking, then you match him up. You match Umar Nurmagomedov up with Cody Stamann. That's a fight that makes all the sense in the world right now. And obviously that would be a tough fight for Cody. But I mean, if Cody wants to really make a run at it, you go out there and try to take out one of the brightest stars and upcoming prospects that we've ever seen. And then you're really, really making some noise. I mean, it is what it is. It's the fight game. And Cody will have a tough task in front of him there. Jailton Almeida destroys Shamil Abdurakhimov. He was a massive favorite. We all knew what was coming here. I mean, listen, Jailton, this guy is an absolute stud. Let's see here. We'll pull up a little picture. You see Cody working his boxing there. But Jailton on top of Shamil just, got cracked with a shot or two early and then just went right to the grappling, took him down and just beat him up like an older brother does to his little brother there, smacking him up, just, sitting on his chest, smacking him up, rubbing boogers in his eyes and all that. You guys that have an older brother, you guys know how that goes, and it wasn't fun, but it is what it is. And Jailton now currently ranked, and now we're talking heavyweight talk here. Remember that now. Jailton's been fighting in the heavyweight division now. Jailton currently ranked 13th. There's a lot of fun fights ahead for him. They've been slow playing him, which I've liked. But remember now, he's not a spring chicken, as I like to say. Jailton is getting up there in age. He's not some young prospect. Time to give him some big boy fights here. I want to see him fight some legit competition because I think he destroys a lot of these guys towards the top. I think he takes out a guy like Tai Tuivasa, who's ranked 6th, coming off 2 losses. You got Alexander Volkov, who's coming off that victory against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. That's the fight I want to see. I want to see Alexander Volkov versus not Jairzinho Rozenstruik, against Jailton Almeida. A little bit of a grappling versus striking matchup. And, what are we going to do with this guy, Jailton? He has 20 pro fights now. He's now fought in the UFC. He's fought in the UFC now 4 times. And he had the Dana White's Contender Series fight back in 2021. If you want to include that, that's 5 fights. Give him the big name matchups now because, you're either going to give him the Jairzinho Rozenstruik fight if you want to do that or the Volkov fight. Now, Jairzinho Rosenstruck did just lose to Volkov, but then he did bounce back with another victory after that against Chris Daukaus. So you can also do that as well. It's one of those two men, in my opinion. Who would you rather see him face off with out of those two guys? I would like to hear your guys' input there. All right, so that's what we're doing for Jailton Almeida. Then we had Gabriel Bonfim, who went out there, made quick work of Minor Laziz, however you want to say that. The talented striker. You guys, I was on Gabriel here. You guys know, like I said, I've been very high in the Bonfim brothers. 4-unit play on Gabriel Bonfim. And he is, it's hard to say that he's the more promising brother after what his brother did as well, but I do believe that Gabriel still is the more promising out of the two. I mean, they're both so promising, but Gabriel Bonfim, I was all over him here. He has the boxing background. He's a very slick striker. But at the end of the day, there was going to be a massive difference in the grappling and the jiu-jitsu, and that's what we saw there. Snatched up that guillotine choke like it was nothing. 4 units, caught it at -175. That was my one win on the card. We have another play coming up. I did lose that. We'll talk about that here in a second. But Gabriel Bonfim, what an addition to the division here. In the welterweight division, which could use some nice new blood in it, in my opinion. He's currently ranked 39th on Tapology's worldwide rankings. And let's talk about some upcoming fights for this stud here. So I'm going to be cruising up a little bit here. Let's see. So look at Kevin Holland way back here, dropping fights these days. Oh, man, you remember me and Kevin Holland had that little run? Teller might have gave him a little bit of a curse there. Listen, Kevin Holland's coming off 2 losses, so that's a fight they're probably not going to give him. I see Michael Morales here right now. Some of you guys are probably going to disagree with this. I know I see a lot of you guys say at times you want to see fighters kind of go their own route when they're very promising. When you see these young studs that are very promising, and I understand that, but sometimes it's nice to see those types of matchups and see who prevails there. And even the loser will still end up having a very bright future. But I would love to see Michael Morales be his next opponent. I think that's a fight that's exciting. Michael Morales 14-0. Bonfim also undefeated here. Give me Michael Morales 14-0 versus Gabriel Bonfim, who's 25 years old, also very young, and who is now 14-0. Someone's O's got to go. Gabriel Bonfim versus Michael Morales. I think that's a fun fight. I want to see it. I believe Morales from Ecuador, if I'm not wrong there. Ecuador versus Brazil. That's a fun fight there. All right. Thiago Moises gets the rear naked choke in the second round over Costa. Now, this was a fight I was a little disappointed in myself for not throwing in a parlay. Based on the fact that I loved everything that Moises was saying fight week, how he was going to use his wrestling. I felt he was going to have a substantial edge with his BJJ, and the fact that he was talking about how we're going to see Brazilian wrestling, the fact that he was going to push this fight down to the mat, I like that aspect there, and that's exactly what he did. He looked to be in phenomenal shape as well. The line was a little high, and Costa has looked dangerous in some of his fight tape coming into the UFC, but this was a major step up in competition for him, and we know we know that Moises is a legit threat in the division, and he's still very young. Okay, so understand that he's only 27 years old, even though he has all these fights in the UFC already. He's currently ranked the 16th lightweight in the world, and let's see what we could do next for Thiago Moises. He's had some big fights already, so I think he's kind of ready to start pushing towards the top again. I really believe that. So right now, you see him right around this area. Bobby Green already matched up with Jared Gordon. Gregor Gillespie, a fighter that just refuses to stay active, declining fights and whatnot as well. I would like to see that fight, but he needs to get more active out there. Grant Dawson coming off that submission victory over Mark Madsen. How about we do that fight? Grant Dawson versus Thiago Moises. Now, that might be a little bit of a problem. I know that both fighters they do train at American Top Team, so maybe that's a fight that we don't see. If we're being realistic, maybe the management has some say there, but I would love to see that fight. And sometimes the UFC doesn't care if fighters don't want to fight each other, and they'll still do that. But if that is the case, just to give you guys a heads up, it might not be the most realistic possibility. Drew Dober been tearing it up, just had that big knockout over Bobby Green. We could see Thiago Moises versus Drew Dober fight. I have no problem with that as well. And maybe that's the more realistic matchup there. Striker versus grappler type matchup. I like that fight. Let's do that then. We won't make the teammates fight each other. All right, Bruno Ferreira gets the nasty knockout over Gregory Rodriguez. How crazy was this? This is interesting, right? I heard a lot of people talking about this. So, when Gregory Rodriguez is fighting some of the nastiest and biggest middleweights in the world, he goes out there, handles business. But when he's fighting these undersized middleweights, these welterweight fighters, like against Jordan Williams on Dana White's Contender Series, he got starched, got knocked out. Fighting an undersized fighter here who took the fight on short notice, and Ferreira gets starched. And I did find that pretty interesting. Bruno Ferreira, all this guy does is go out there and knock his opponents out. He has now knocked out every single fighter. I believe he's never left the first round. Another first-round knockout. This guy just knows how to land that punch, and he is a very, very exciting prospect, man. Bruno Ferreira, 10-0, another undefeated Brazilian here coming off this card, 30 years old. Not a spring chicken. So I think there's some exciting fights to throw him in the near future. Currently ranked, 28th or so? 28th. I want to see him matched up with somebody that likes to throw down, all right, personally, right? So he just got that knockout over Gregory Rodriguez. Caio Bahayo, more of a grappling fighter that would probably try to neutralize him there. I want to see him matched up with somebody that wants to throw down. Anthony Hernandez, he grapples as well, but he's down to throw down a little bit on the feet. Some of the more exciting matchups that I would like to see, some of these fighters are coming off losses, so it's kind of tough to do that. Maybe you see Bruno versus Michal Oliveira, although we've talked about other matchups for Michal. Ian Heinisch doesn't seem to fight anymore. Andre Petrosky, we've talked about matches for him. Arman Petrosian, that's a matchup I think makes some sense. How about an Arman Petrosian matchup? A much more rangy opponent, but a fighter that likes to strike, a more refined striker. Let's see who prevails there. The more the fighter that's more of a technician compared to the fighter that just goes out there and starches these guys. Arman Petrosian would be a good matchup in my opinion. I have no problem with that. What do you guys think about that? Maybe I'm missing a better matchup there, but Ihor Potieria gets the finish over Mauricio Shogun Rua. This was a disappointing fight for me as well because, we saw a legend get taken out, but this was a fight that I was extremely close to pulling the trigger on. I was thinking about throwing some major units on it, but Ihor's last fight was very disappointing. And, although Shogun is just up there in age and I knew he was going to crumble, I was just a little hesitant because I feel like a more young and prime Shogun would really dance around a fighter like Potieria, but Potieria had the youth and the size and all that going with him, and I did feel he was going to get the knockout here, and I should have targeted this as a finish, a prop finish or something like that, and I'm mad at myself for not doing that. It was what it was there, and Ihor Potieria gets the knockout in the first round, ending an amazing career in Shogun who's just did it all, fighting over in Pride, fighting in the UFC, former UFC light heavyweight champion, one of the best Brazilian fighters of all time, just an absolute stud, one of the greats. And Ihor Potieria, good for him to get a victory like that and to try to get some confidence back after the last performance that he just put on. He needed that. And I still think that if Ihor gets matched up with some of the more talented young fighters in the division, he's going to really have some trouble. So I'm going to want to slow play him for sure. I'm not going much higher than his ranking at all. He's currently ranked 34th. Let's see here. Got some PFL fighters around this area. Unless we go back a little bit, let's see what we got here. These fighters are already matched up. Tafana and Shukui would be a good matchup, but he's coming off 2 losses, so I don't think we're really going to see something like that. Let's see what we got. We'll scroll up a little bit here. OSP is matched up. What do we got? Glover Teixeira, currently ranked 28th. What's up with that? That has to be a mistake here, right? Glover Teixeira, currently ranked at 28th. Light heavy. That's an error there. Something got messed up here. Ignore that. Maxim Grishin. Without going up any higher, Maxim Grishin's a very seasoned fighter. That's a fight you could do, right? He just lost to Negamariano. Ian Cutelaba would be a good matchup as well if the UFC's keeping him around. He's on a 3-fight losing skid, but again, coming off some losses. But don't go too high up because Potieria will get styled on. Give him Maxim Grishin or Ian Cutelaba at this point in time. I mean, that's the route that you're going to want to go, in my opinion. You go too far up the rankings, and he's going to get worked. All right, Johnny Walker gets the finish over Paul Craig. This was another fight that I was very close to pulling the trigger on, and I didn't. And again, it is what it is. I'm just keeping it real with you guys. And the reason why I didn't pull the trigger, I was a little worried that maybe we saw Paul Craig get in on those hips and get some takedowns and work some ground game here. We've seen Johnny Walker kind of controlled down at the mat by Krylov not too long ago, but Johnny Walker has really caught his stride, and I had a real good feeling he was going to get a knockout over Paul Craig. We talked about that. We talked about that fight between Krylov and Paul Craig. We talked about a couple of Paul Craig's fights, and I saw this potential all day. Big knockout for Johnny Walker, who I mean, the way he knocked him out, he had one leg on the ground, one leg in the air, and he's throwing these fists around like it's just a giant sledgehammer, and gets the finish there. And I'm very excited to see who we can match Johnny Walker up with, which if you guys follow me on IG, you guys already know who I'm matching up Johnny Walker with. So let me pull that up real quick for you guys. Let's go over here, because if you're following me on IG, you guys know you guys are getting these types of posts every Sunday or Monday after the fight card, and I'm already doing the matchmaking for the main card. So Johnny Walker, I want to see him take on Anthony Smith. It's either Anthony Smith or if you want to do Alexander Rakic. Both guys been battling injuries as of recently. I think the Anthony Smith fight maybe makes a little bit more sense. But give me Johnny Walker versus Anthony Smith for the next matchup for Walker there. And it's been very exciting to see Johnny Walker back in the mix of the light heavyweight division, getting these amazing knockouts. He's a very fun fighter to watch, and I'm excited to see him battle in his next fight there. How about Jessica Andrade putting that work on Lauren Murphy, absolutely outclassing her. Jessica Andrade, a future Hall of Famer. Let's make that clear right now. A future Hall of Famer. She's now fighting in the flyweight division. We know that she's fought in the bantamweight division, the strawweight division, the flyweight division, whatever division she's gone to. She's just been wreaking havoc. Now, if you want to be critical about her, you can say when she fights the best of the best in her temporary division at the time, she has fallen short. We saw her fall short to Valentina Shevchenko. We've seen her lose to some big names in the bantamweight division back in the day. She's obviously was a champion down in the strawweight division. Also lost some fights in the strawweight division, and it comes with the territory. You're fighting the best in the world. I mean, I wouldn't consider her one of those types of fighters that just falls short in those big fights, because she has reached the pinnacle of the sport. She was a champion, so you can't really say that. In my opinion, I've heard that narrative, but you know what I'm talking about. Some of those fighters that are just so good but kind of fall short, and maybe like a Rob Whittaker. But again, Rob Whittaker was also a champion, but sometimes just fall a little bit short against those other fighters that are right there at the top at times. And no matter how you want to talk about her, just one thing you need to say is that she is an absolute great. She's a future Hall of Famer. She's fun to watch. She has serious power. She does it all, and she's just a stud. All right, and I'm gonna want to see her facing off with the up and coming talent of Manon Fiorot, the fighter that is very promising. I want to see her matched up against her. Now remember, she's been fighting recently down in the strawweight division, so she's now trying to make a splash up here in the flyweight division. She does have to gain some respect as of now with the fighters that have been currently putting in that work in this division. And I want to see her taking on Manon Fiorot. Manon Fiorot, currently ranked 3rd on Tapology's worldwide rankings in the division. A very talented, up-and-coming fighter. I mean, obviously, very respected. I mean, with the limited amount of fights she's had in the UFC, and to already be ranked 3rd in the division, throw Fiorot in there with an all-time great like Andrade, and let's see who prevails there. That's the fight that I want to see. If Andrade wins that fight, listen, you know Andrade is not looking to play around. She wants to push her way right back to a title shot. So she's not worried about the fact that she's already lost to Valentina. She's looking for a rematch. She's already been in fights where she's had rematches and whatnot. She's just ready to put in that work. Let me see Manon Fiorot versus Jessica Andrade. That's a fight that makes all the sense in the world to me. If you guys can think of somebody else, comment below. All right, Gilbert Burns submits Neil Magny in the first round, puts on an absolute masterclass. Gilbert Burns is one of the best grapplers in the game, one of the most well-rounded fighters in the game, and he's really hitting his stride right now. Even though he's up in age, he's really hitting his stride. Gilbert Burns, think about this right now. Gilbert Burns is 36 years old, but that performance against Khamzat Chimaev was, without a doubt, extremely impressive. No one's going out there putting up a fight like that against Khamzat. Yeah, he lost to Usman, but you know, that was a fight that he went out guns a-blazing. He got caught. It's any given Saturday out here these days. And Gilbert, without a doubt, is a threat to the title, in my opinion. That's how I'm feeling about Gilbert right now with the performances that he's putting out there. Gilbert Burns, currently ranked, let's pull this up real quick. He's currently ranked the 4th fighter in the welterweight division. Now, there's a couple ways you can go with the matchmaking here. It's either Belal Muhammad, who we know Belal's been ducking Gilbert a little bit. We'll see if Belal is ready to take that fight. Also, if any of you guys are having trouble sleeping, you guys can go check out on Spotify Belal Muhammad making a feature on the Joe Rogan Experience. If you guys are having trouble falling asleep, you throw that on and you're out within a couple seconds there. So that is a great help to many people that struggle with sleep problems. All right, so Gilbert Burns, it's either Colby Covington or Belal Muhammad. Personally, I wouldn't mind to see that Colby fight. I want to see Colby back in there. Gilbert Burns was calling for that fight. He even said he would love to host the Ultimate Fighter against Colby, and I would actually like to see that. You know, Colby's had some nasty things to say about the Brazilians in the past. Went out there and he beat up some aged Brazilians like Damian Maia back in the day. Let him go in there and fight a guy like Gilbert Burns. I think stylistically that's a really fun fight as well. I think that fight could play out similarly to what we saw in the Usman versus Covington fights. You know, two just high-level fighters, good grappling pedigrees that can strike, make that matchup there. But if it ends up being the Belal Muhammad fight, that's a fight that's very exciting as well, and I would be pumped to see that action take place. All right, Brandon Moreno takes out Davison Figueiredo. This was, in fact, my other play here. You know, the matchup between these guys absolutely drives me nuts. Every time they fight, it's something different, right? I had an official play on Brandon Moreno the last time they fought, and he fell short. I thought Figueiredo looked good in that fight, dropping him a couple times. This time around, yeah, I take Figueiredo. It's in his home country. I thought if it went to the judges' scorecards, he would have had the edge there. And what do you know? Doesn't look to be the same type of fighter, and Moreno looks better than ever. Now, Figueiredo not training with Cejudo for his fight camp leading up to this fight, that may have had an impact. I mean, he looked to be in phenomenal shape. I mean, had a perfect weight cut, but he is getting a little bit up there in age as well, while Brandon Moreno's still on the peak, not even hitting his early 30s yet. So, you know, in retrospect, I dropped the ball there, and I did lose a small play on Figueiredo. That with the Bonfim win earlier, we're talking about very, very slight losses in the card, but I'm not happy about that. I'm trying to bring in some units here, and you guys know I'm going to clean that up, and we're going to make some big-time units on the next upcoming card. We also have some Bellator action to talk about too, and I will have some action on that card. So I'm targeting some big plays moving forward. And shout out to Brandon Moreno. You guys know the fight to make, right? It's Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja. You guys heard about the little run-in they had backstage. I think that'd be a great fight. Pantoja is so dangerous, and give me Brandon Moreno versus Pantoja, and that would be a fun fight there. All right, and then we will work over to the main event, which Jamahal Hill defeats Glover Teixeira. Jamahal Hill proved so much in this fight. He proved he can go 5 rounds in an absolute war. He proved that he has a gas tank. He proved that he's very competent down on the mat. A lot of other fighters, when they were in the position that Hill was in, they broke, right? They were submitted. They were finished. Glover Teixeira he's done that. He's eaten so many shots. He's worn his opponents down. He's so tough. And Jamahal Hill proved that he's a very well-rounded fighter. But I want to say this, maybe more importantly, we got to tip the hat to Glover Teixeira, because the performance that he just put on, I mean, he's just an absolute stud at the age that he's at, to eat those shots, to continue to coming forward. Remember between rounds, between the 4th and 5th round, to hear Glover Teixeira when they were looking at his cuts and whatnot, and he's like, come on, let's go, let's rock and roll, let's go. To have that type of energy, that guy is cut from a different cloth. I look up to a guy like that. You can literally take the performance that he puts out there in the cage. You can take that and it can inspire you to do so much. It's crazy, man. Glover Teixeira is a stud. I was happy that he dropped the gloves. It's a smart move there. He wants to work with his teammate, Alex Pereira there and work on him. Maybe he jumps up in weight or whatnot. And I think that's a smart move. Glover should go into the coaching side of things. He doesn't need to take any more damage. Yeah, he could take a shot, but you keep taking that type of damage. I mean, there's a realistic possibility you're going to have some major issues as you age, and that's just what it is. So big shout out to Jamahal Hill, though, for putting on a great performance, for being a class act all fight week. And Jamahal Hill, you know who he needs to fight next. He needs to fight the real light heavyweight champ who should have been crowned in his last fight, and that is Magomed Ankalaev. And you guys know Magomed should have had that victory over Jan Blachowicz, or maybe you disagree, but he should have had that victory, and he should have been the champ. He should have been fighting Jamahal Hill here, and that's the fight to make. And I think that's a great fight. I cannot wait to see that fight. Magomed Ankalaev versus Jamahal Hill. That's the fight to make, in my opinion, without a doubt. And unless you guys can correct me there. All right, guys. So that recaps UFC 280. What do you guys think about the green screen over here? Look at me. I'm just floating around on Tapology right now. Like I told you guys, I'm going to refine all this here, and it'll look much better. I'll have this channel just really sharpened up here the next months. I'm pumped up. I'm excited for it. I really want to work some things here with my videos and make them look stellar for you guys. All right. So hope you guys all did well. Hope you guys all profited on the card. Like that video on your guys' way out. Subscribe to the channel. Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.